reading our books. We have 3 titles we will discuss today, and then we'll talk about next steps for future meetings. So just as we review, we have our 4 bullets of 1069. We go into the statute around sexual conduct. And this is our schedule moving forward. So we have this meeting today where we're going to be talking about damsel and people kill people, and Sasaki and Mayano, volume 1. And then at our next meeting, we have Breathless and Last Night at the Telegraph Club. And then right now, this would be our final meeting based on objections received with Out of Darkness and the Kingdom of Little Wounds. So should we receive any others, we would be adding dates, but at this point, we have not received any others.
We actually have things.
So we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, welcome. I'm Trish Ely and Missy Slack, the Bard Public Schools Library Media Content Specialist, K-12. We'll facilitate today's meeting. As a reminder, we do not have a vote or input for today. We're here to reconsider 3 books, Damsel by Elena Arnold, People Kill People by Ellen Hopkins, and Sasaki and Mayano by Shao Harasono. It's the committee's responsibility for the book being reconsidered to make recommendation to the board to either keep, remove, or other for Brevard Public Schools classrooms and libraries by majority vote. I want to take this opportunity to remind the public that we do not have a vote, and the role of the public in the meeting is an observer. The audience needs to remain quiet so the committee members may be heard. Each committee member will have the opportunity to speak once each member has had his or her chance to speak and any lingering issues have been discussed. I will then call for a vote. It is now time for each committee member to have his or her opportunity to speak. We will begin with the book Damsel by Elena Arnold. Who would like to begin?
I'll begin because that one's an easy one for me. I believe it violates Florida statute, so I don't really see the need to discuss it any further. I believe it crosses that line.
So, I like fantasy books. Damsel was a very good story. Like the world that they created, I guess the sense of magic and, just the culture that was created. Obviously it was a lot to show, the oppression of women and some overcoming that, so a lot of positive messages. You leave out 4 parts in 3 chapters, and this is a perfectly acceptable book. There's a rape scene, or a hand job, and then the last chapter, the guy uses his yard to slay a dragon with a broom. I mean, that was the tipping point for me. I mean, it obviously goes against the statute, and it's so frustrating because that's such great. It was a very good story. It had a very good message. It was very empowering to the heroine of the story as well as to readers. But I would recommend that it be removed.
I also think this is really it's interesting as well. I like the twist. It definitely took a different approach on I appreciate you think it's one story, and it's very quickly a different story, and the ending was goofy, fun, fascinating, cool twist. I'm always going to look at the work as a whole, and I think that there is, it's entertaining. There's some value, again, to dealing with oppression through a couple different layers of metaphor. I think is terrific. Just that whole idea of a damsel in distress literally being created, and her only reason for existence is to be the damsel in distress. You're just here for the prince to save you, and that's true in a lot of stories. And to see that commented on and dealt with as a central theme of the book was cool. And yeah, there's a couple scenes that are uncomfortable, unpleasant, or whatever. The rape scene, stuff like that is certainly uncomfortable. But I think Barry Crimmins, who is an advocate for child molestation survivors, said, if these kids had to live through it, we can survive hearing about it or reading about it. And as always, this is the better way to learn about things, is through reading than through having them inflicted on someone. So I would vote to keep.
Any further discussions? And then I will call on each committee member to give a verbal vote for recommendation on the book Damsel by Elena Arnold to keep, remove, or other. Ashley?
Remove.
Michael?
Remove.
Paul?
Keep.
So the committee has voted by a majority vote to make the recommendation to remove, one keep, so to remove Damsel by Elena Arnold.
We're going to move on now to People Kill People by Ellen Hopkins. They've applied. We'll need a majority vote, and we'll give each person a chance to discuss and share their point of view. And then we'll call for a verbal vote again for keep, remove, or other. So we'll open the floor for discussion for People Kill People.
This book was really difficult to get through, just in that, it really hit home on a lot of mental health issues and consequences of that, especially with regard to weapons and hate and vengeance and violence. I'm a bit on the fence on this one because, man, that narrator, that was pretty twisted. Like, I could see somebody who has issues reading this book and that triggering, some trauma in their own lives. And sometimes that's good, to recognize it, but sometimes, that can take you down a really slippery slope to a very dark place. I don't think that was the intention of the author, but to an immature reader, and the definition of immature reader is broad. This could be, this could be a rather damaging book. So I didn't see anything in the book that was statutory, that I could say would disqualify it from a statutory, from a sexual conduct perspective, which is usually what we kind of review. It deals with a lot. It brings up a lot, and I don't know. I wrote down this from the statute. Not suited to student needs or their ability to understand. That ability to understand is what I'm kind of wrestling with this one all the time.
I agree with you, Michael. When I was reading it, I actually liked the book.
I enjoyed the story.
I liked the story. I liked the flipping of every character. I liked that. I kind of liked the surprise ending because I didn't see that. I knew someone was going to die, but I didn't expect it to be the kid killing the aunt or the cousin or whatever she was. Yeah, very complex suicide ideology, obviously racism, sexual molestation, very, very heavy themes that we've all dealt with before in some of the other books. Don't feel like it violated statute, but I also was kind of like, is this appropriate? Honestly, I was really more into the ideology because I did read the insert, the beginning of the book, where the author lays out her ideology about guns, and then at the end it has, obviously, anti-gun organizations. I probably would not have gotten that it was anti-gun just by the meat of the story, because it kind of had two views on both ends, for and against, which I'm all for, open dialogue on different concerning topics. So I am also on the fence on this one. This is high school only?
Yes, this is high school. We had so far 0 checkouts. Did you look to see which school? I didn't see which schools, as far as I know. it's
Only
high
one school has it.
Yeah.
Since 2019, 0 checkouts.
So, I'm on the fence as well as far as do we vote to keep, do we restrict? Anyway,
Sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt you. I apologize.
yeah.
So yeah, this was a tough read in a bunch of ways for me too. There was, it's really easy for me to say, we should all, stuff out there that we're not comfortable with, and it's really easy to say stuff that other people aren't comfortable with. But I don't want to be in the mind of a white supremacist kid. I don't enjoy that narrative, but understanding is, always, it's never a bad thing. It's interesting. It's educational or something. Hate everything this person's thinking, but it is, these are representative of things that are out there in the real world, and I can close my eyes or I can look at it. It's probably better to look at it. Not that I want to. It's hard not to just review the challenge, because it's another one where 0 effort. Here's the book looks page challenge, where it's just keyword searched about all the sex stuff generally, and forget all the injuries and the maiming and the accidental shootings and the road rage, because those didn't show up in their keyword searches. We haven't seen the actual challenge, but I'm guessing it's just see attached thing I downloaded. But yeah, the fact that this is hard, the fact that this stuff is difficult to deal with, is where the value is, I think, and that, obviously that ending was shocking, but it's, a real consideration about, firearms in the home. And again, it's not everything. I'm not against, the anti-second amendment, but also something to consider. And hopefully you quoted you referred to the statute about the student needs, and this is one where I would say, well, which student? Which students' needs, especially should this be in an elementary school library? Obviously not. But in high school, there are a lot of kids who are absolutely, A, this might be relevant in terms of their needs. B, certainly at their reading level, or this isn't written at college reading level. And thematically, the material, I think, for a lot of college students is high school students, is approachable. Which again, why I think leaving the choice open, and parents can always opt out. I would rather see this available than not, by far.
Yeah.
I'm going to see just quickly if you, because I thought those challenges had been sent to you, so I can pull up the challenge if that would.
That's all right.
I don't see.
I generally try not to read them, because either A, they're meaningless, or B, they'll skew your view before you read them.
I mean,
so.
90% of the time it's been go see this. So I printed out that. I would put money on right.
I think my biggest issue with this book is the ideology stated in it. It's like, if you would have just left the story, because there's there's consequence for the drug dealing. There's consequence for leaving a gun unattended with an infant or a toddler in your home. There's consequences across the board for even all the white nationalism rally stuff, and going with open carry and all that. So if it had just been that story, I feel like that if I had not read the other ideology parts, like where this is where I stand, this is why I wrote this book, I think it would have been a good conversational piece to say, what's your stance on this particular topic? But I think that was my that was my takeaway at the end. I was like, you know, I wish they'd left it not so clear where their standing was in the book, because I feel like it could have gone either way, to sway a mind. But I don't know.
I get what you're saying with that. On the other hand, I sort of appreciate somebody at least being upfront with, you know, no, really, I'm the author, I wrote this is where I'm coming from, let's not pretend otherwise. You know, I kind of appreciate that.
Well, with the ideology stated, I can see why she chose the characters that she did. She chose the vast extremes of all issues
Right.
to create this intense juxtaposition of
That's kind of Ellen
ideas.
Hopkins.
Yeah.
She didn't do nuance so much.
It wouldn't be.
It's
It
right
wouldn't have
there.
been a good book if
No,
honestly, if it wasn't in the extreme. So.
Yeah, and we're not here to, you know, discuss the Second Amendment. We're not here to determine if her ideology is correct or not. Authors have the ability to press their ideology within the realm of their book. I feel like that's okay. It's where it gets, you know, sexual, and you know that's where, you know, that's the line in the statute that's really like, you know, beaming. And I agree with Paul. You know, suited to students' needs. You know, their ability to understand. I feel like a high schooler could comprehend this, but again, man, that narrator takes you to some dark places very fast.
Yeah, because it's almost like like in the little blurbs, it's like the conscience or whatever is speaking, and it's so.
Yeah, she's not specific. I just, the narrator almost just felt like, okay, this is just evil speaking. This is rage speaking.
Yeah,
This is
it
the
was-
worst of us speak, and clear about that. It's something very malevolent without being specified. But yeah,
The worst in
I
us.
didn't really know what the names of it
Conscious.
was.
Yeah, this one's a hard one for me. So.
Y'all still want to, you need another minute to, I don't want to rush the vote.
I think I'm good.
Okay, all right. Once each member has voted, if there is not a majority consensus, the table will be open for further discussion. I will call on each committee member to give a verbal vote for recommendation on the book People Kill People by Ellen Hopkins, to remove, to keep, or other. So we'll start with Ashley.
I'll vote to keep for high school only.
Michael.
I'll vote to keep for high school.
And Paul.
Keep.
I need you to say it. Thank you, sir. All right. Okay, we'll now move on to book number 3. Since you say the name so well, I'll let you know.
Okay, it is now time for each committee member to have his or her opportunity to speak on the book Sasaki and Mayano, Volume 1. Who would like to go first with that?
This one I might want to see. That I sincerely, I do not understand why this book is being objected to. I do not understand what, if this, I will say right off the bat, I mean, it's, nothing happens. There's like one vague mention of the word bottom.
We're gonna put it up on the
Yeah,
screen.
nothing happens, and if this was a cute little comic book romance between two, it's not, it doesn't even get to the point of romance. If this was a little manga full of flirting between two students of the opposite sex, I cannot imagine a universe where this was challenged. I'm really interested as to what on earth somebody claims to objection to.
We did have a Bible, the children's Bible, challenge. So
I-
you know, everything's on the table
Which-
at this point in time.
Which I also did not defend. I just.
I made a note so we don't mutually share the objections. Yeah, I think it was.
Entire series, because sexual orientation should not be encouraged, suggested, or implanted in our youth. So the objection is based on the whole series, not just the book, and also they think mind control is a thing or something. I mean, this material could be very offensive to a student. Well, yeah, okay.
Okay, I wholeheartedly, when I felt dumber after I read this book. And aside from the sexual orientation part, if you read the definitions, because obviously there was a lot of terminology that was used that's like anime, Japanese terminology, boy love, bottom top, you know, like the different, just, I don't even know the names of them. So I did read the definitions before I read the actual book, which helped. So going back to the orientation part, that if it were, here's my perspective. There's two boys that one does not, obviously, is not thinking in a sexual relationship way, but he likes this boy love comic stuff that is Japanese and from the definition in the book is erotic in nature, and it defines sexual positions. And then you have the one that is pursuing him, and it's completely innocent as far as the book goes. Like, there's nothing Florida statutorily that's violated. But for me, let's flip the script, it was heterosexual in nature, and the girl is the one being pursued, and she's sharing these sexual in nature books with the boy that's pursuing her. I would still feel the same way, because the whole topic of the entire comic, I feel, is irrelevant for any kind of public school. It may have been innocent. I don't know with the additional series how far it goes. This is just the first series of 7, which I assume are not in the books. This is the only one in one school, right?
Right.
So my vote is going to be removed, because I don't see it as being appropriate for public schools, libraries. That's where I'm at.
And what's the benefit? Like, if you checked this out, would an English teacher in almost there's like 100 words in the entire book. I get that's graphic novels and that's what manga is, and again, I had to look up all this stuff. I'm glad they had glossary in the fronts of the book.
Yeah, you had to read it backwards, which I probably would have read it the wrong way too if someone didn't tell me to read it backwards.
I don't feel like there's any benefit to this in public school, and I'd say that again. I'd say that if I was a heterosexual couple as well. It does not violate any statutes as is. I mean, they do talk about Japanese. It is erotica, but not like as defined as such. Like, it is meant to be tantalizing, but not like pornographic. So again, I'm a bit on the fence because it doesn't violate statute, but the benefit to it being in the public school library.
See, I'm going to push back a little. First, I'm reading more of the challenge, and challenger, whoever you are, go talk to a therapist. Quit whatever you're doing. Oh my God. I do not believe there is any value in something homosexual books available at a school. Just, dear God. I mean, thank you for saying the quiet part out loud. Go sit on the couch somewhere. My God. Anyway, so is this book necessary? I'm going to go back to, is any book strictly necessary? Is, the Cat in the Hat necessary? Is One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish necessary? No. Is it fun? Maybe? Yeah. Now, we do have one of the main characters being a little surprised, a little bit confused about feelings, being given a lot of crap by the schoolmates about it, being teased, and I think anything where somebody might recognize a troubling situation and feel a little bit less alone, there's value there. But like you said, it doesn't violate statute, and I certainly don't see that it does. And we've had books that we agreed had a lot more value, or at least one that we all agreed should stay, and the board said, no, statute, buy nowhere girls. So if it's about the statutes, this needs to stay. I can make an argument that there's some value in it. Am I saying that this is War and Peace? No. Am I saying that this is The Watchmen? I can name better graphic novels, I can name better mangas, but it's okay for books to be enjoyable, and if someone relates to it a little bit, and you know, I certainly would be, while you know, manga as a genre, certainly there are erotic subsections of that, but this book, you know, maybe it's, in a meta sense, it talks about these things, but it's not in there. And I have not read the rest of the series. I have no idea what's in the rest of the series. We're not here to review the rest of the series. I see no, you know, I don't think we have to, you know, it's a book. I think it's innocent until proven guilty, and the guilt would be the statute. And, you know, not only do I not think it violates statute, but the challenger is pretty clear that this book is on this list because there's gay thoughts. And Helen.
Well, I mean, yes, the challenger made it explicit that, you know, he or she objects to the homosexuality being the central theme of the book. Repeatedly. And do I want a teacher recommending this book to, you know, an elementary school teacher, you know, recommend this to a fourth grader?
This is
Middle.
This is not in elementary schools, yeah. And if we're talking, if it was a curriculum question, that would be, you know, that's another discussion that I'm not even slightly qualified to talk about.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I definitely don't want to talk about curriculum, but what the problem is that a book like this can be used to push an agenda, and we can play what if scenarios all day long. You have ideology on both sides being, you know, pressed into these kids, and
But I don't think that depicting the existence of something is not any more pushing an ideology than, you know, whatever Tom Sawyer having a crush is pushing heterosexuality on it. It's a thing that happens, and they wrote a story about it. And if you happen to identify with that, great. You know, this the idea that it's pushing. You know, did a book make you decide to be straight? Probably not. You are who you are. I am who I am.
no. So this book, I feel like I know where, you know, I know how I'm voting. It's just, you know, the reason for a submission like this is, you know, people and kids are being pressed upon in all different directions for ideologies that the parents may or may not be aware is being pressed, and schools school administration may or may not be aware is being pressed, and this is the type of resource that's being used to do that. So I understand the I'll say the blanket submissions with regard to anything that centers on sexuality. And this book is relatively innocent. I did a good amount of research after reading it and what the rest of the series holds, and apparently, you know, the next 6 books are much like this, in that it's fairly innocent. Obviously, you know, the innuendos start getting stronger and stronger, and feelings start coming out. That's not what we're viewing now, but the thing is you know, these things can be used to impress viewpoints on kids that parents may or may not, you know, be comfortable with. I think this book is I think this book I'll look to keep. You know, whether it's middle school, high school, you know, we can discuss that, but you know, the fact that we're reviewing it is not inconsequential, because of the sharp ideologies of people nowadays.
See,
because people taking it upon themselves to teach children something that they have no business teaching them.
So this is just a book on a shelf, and it's at a
Absolutely.
after-school special level of sexuality at best.
Absolutely.
And the only ideology I'm seeing being pushed in this case of this book sitting on a shelf is this nonsense up here. I mean, this is very, no homosexuals around my children.
I wouldn't want a teacher talking to my child about heterosexual, you know, tendencies or anything like that. I don't want a teacher talking to my child about their sexual escapades on the weekend, whether it's with, you know, whether it's a monogamous relationship with their
But
husband
we're
or
not.
wife, or whether it's a monogamous
But we're not,
relationship
and
with
that's
husband and
not,
husband.
that is not at issue here. It's not at issue.
It would be an issue.
My issue is it
If
revolves
this-
around sexuality. It revolves around the topic of the books being read being shared, it's around sexuality, and it references sexual positions, and it's
the focus.
unlike like what People Kill People. There's a plot. There's sex involved in it. There's actually the girl comes out as queer and whatever. So there's all that in there. But it's relevant to the story. This to me is like solely for sex. It's just referencing sex and them learning about these boy love books. I couldn't.
I will say
I
with no, everything that comes out of my mouth sounds like sarcasm or something, but really, I honestly read it again. There's more. There's a more nuanced through line of that, and there's, it's about, it's a little romance book. It's a puppy love book. Happens to be that they're boy, and happens to be that, as with a lot of adolescent books where they don't recognize the feelings they're having because they're too young. This is that same thing plus, well, but that's a boy. I can't possibly be having that feeling, and he's confused by it. And there are people who will relate to that, and it's not that the book is telling them to feel that. It's, again, I'm not alone. Is there a deep, dark, is there a thick plot that would take pages and pages to outline? But I would say if, all about the sexuality, no, it's not that. It's so much more to me. What I read, it's so much more about, attraction, romance, little, again, puppy love feelings. Happens that it's two boys. Happens that one of them's pretty confused by it. And nobody's telling him to feel otherwise. The book isn't telling him to feel otherwise. I'm not probably susceptible to the argument from indoctrination about most any book, but boy, sure not this one. Not this one. It's an after-school special, maybe, but honestly, it's just a little kiddie romance. Happens at the boys.
Any further discussion? So I will call on each committee member to give a verbal vote for recommendation on the books Sasaki and Mayano to keep, remove, or other. Ashley?
I will be removed.
This one. Michael?
Keep.
Paul?
Keep.
Okay. So the committee has voted by majority vote to make the recommendation to the board to keep Sasaki and Mayano Volume 1. To keep one.
Do we want to go back to the calendar?
Yeah.
Make sure everybody has dates and times.
And what I will do this afternoon is I will send all of the members the challenges for the remaining, all three.
So we have coming up, there we go, breathless, and I believe that everybody has a copy in here.
Yep.
Last night, we'll have 2 books for the next meeting. We will be in a different room, but we'll do like we normally do. We'll meet you guys in the front. And then the last meeting, we'll be back in here with the other books. So I believe, at least the 3 of you have a copy of the remaining titles for review.
You may.
You gave them to us, right?
Yes, I believe so. Double check me.
All four.
Yes, double check me. I think we're one short in some of them, so we'll work that out with the other 2 members, make sure they get a copy.
If you want to, I generally get these on audiobooks, so if you want to
Hang on to them.
hang on to them to get the other
That's
committee members.
totally up to you, whatever you prefer.
Okay.
Normally, I'm traveling next week, so bringing these on the plane is going
Okay.
to be
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So everybody's good with the date and time?
Well-
yeah, they're all 1:30, right?
I'm not going to be here for the next meeting, but I'll submit comments. I know I won't have a voting.
But we'll read your comments.
Okay. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you for your time.